What's up, everyone? It's Kali with Money Investing here. So markets pushing higher, slowly and steadily kind of drifting upwards. We had the Nasdaq, the S&P, and the Dow Jones all closing in green with lots of information coming out with Bill Ackman and big short investor Michael Burry also disclosing some positions that I wanted to talk about. So lots to unpack here. As always, if you enjoy this video, find it helpful, make sure that you drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're just joining us for the first time, and link to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below. At the end of this month, the 16% annual discount will go away, so you can get access to all the buy and sell alerts, options alerts, trade ideas. Everything's going to be included, as well as the private live streams that we're doing 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. So link's going to be down below. So this right here is going to be a couple of videos that I wanted to encourage you to watch if you have the time. The first one is knowing this market matrix, because this is really what's going to dictate how the markets trade and where we go moving forward from here. Because so far what we have really seen is a tech rally and other sectors either flat or down. And this is really going over the different possibilities, 9 different possibilities that markets can trade in moving forward, whether it's a broad-based rally, whether it's a sector rotation, whether it's some profit taking. All those scenarios are talked about in this video. So definitely encourage you to check it out if you have some time. This is another video going back over to, back to all-time highs. There are specific things that need to happen in terms of mathematically, right? There's need to be certain things that need to take place before the markets can be at all-time highs. So this right here is another video going over the possibilities of markets trading back up to all-time highs, and of course how much technology stocks more specifically need to go up in order for it to make sense, which obviously does not make sense because the valuations will be too high and these tech stocks would need to rally, close to 100, 120, 200% once again. So definitely check out both of those videos if you have the time. It'll give you a little bit more context in what is the market environment that we're currently working with, and of course not to mention what is it going to take for the markets to trade back up to all-time highs. Anyway, S&P 500 here up a little bit over 30 basis points. The Dow was up about 48 points or mostly flat, and the Nasdaq here pushing up another 66 basis points, getting past 12,300. And S&P is still hovering between 41 and 4,200 at the moment. So we had over 2,000 stocks pushing higher between 0 to 2%, 1,900 stocks, or actually 1,200 stocks pushing up between 2 to 5%. So we had over 4,000 advancers with less than 3,000, a little bit over 2,100 decliners on the day. So very, very solid day, needless to say, for the bulls. This right here, Ackman Pershing Square, reveals a new $1 billion bet on Alphabet. So they did pick up about 10 million shares of Google between Class A and Class C shares in the first quarter, I believe, of close to $1.1 billion. And of course, Alphabet is up over 32% year to date. So I actually did a video on Alphabet going over the qualitative analysis and how AI could be a little bit of more of a problem moving forward for this company, as a lot of other companies have access to AI assistants and kind of can create their own search engines. So make sure that you do check out that video, and we're having a very lively debate in our Discord as well. And this right here, big short Michael Burry bought shares in a slew of regional banks in the first quarter amid the banking crisis. That's not going to turn out too well considering what we have seen. So Burry's hedge fund, Ski and Asset Management, picked up New York Community Bank Corp, Capital One, Western Alliance, PacWest, and Huntington Bank shares. And the famed investor said in mid-March after the collapse that he expected the banking crisis to be over soon without severe damage. Little did he know that PacWest and even First Republic were only getting started. So on May 1st, First Republic was seized by regulators to become the biggest bank collapse in the 2008 financial crisis. And the institutional suffer a deposit flight as its long-term assets fell in market value after a series of rate hikes, triggering worries about unrealized losses on the balance sheet as well. Burry has now deleted that tweet in March. So, man, he could already have sold his positions. So remember that these numbers that they come out, they are for first quarter 2023, right? So by till March 31st, 2023. So it's possible that he may have already gotten out of some of these positions if he wanted to kind of mitigate some of those losses. And same thing is true with Bill Ackman. Of course, we know that he bought Google in the first quarter, but we don't know what's happened between the end of first quarter till where we are now, because they're not required to report these numbers until 45 days after they've already made the trade. So the changes could be made, which we don't know of until later. So this right here is the entire state of the market. So semiconductors doing really well. Nvidia, AMD, Intel, all pushing higher here on the day. Then we've got Apple here slightly down, Microsoft slightly up. Meta was up on an upgrade, up over 2%, basically eating Google's lunch because Google was down on that downgrade, down about 85 basis points. Amazon was up, Tesla was down. So very, very flat market, even among big tech. Some were up, some were down. We were talking about Adobe in our live stream today and how it's actually down on a year-to-date basis. Pretty strong day for Adobe, up over 3%. And then, of course, some of the banks here also recovering. Materials were slightly up. Utilities were down. Consumer defenses were down. Healthcare was selling off. So, again, I kind of feel it's very few names. Really just technology pushing higher with the NASDAQ. We got Meta, we got Nvidia, we got Adobe, Microsoft, Amazon. All of the companies that are pushing up the NASDAQ. And in terms of the Dow and the S&P, financials had a little bit to do with it. Industrials had something to do with it as well. So this is the entire state of the market. So mostly, I would say, some of the larger cap, Tesla, Google, Apple, Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, very, very flat. Walmart was down, Home Depot was down. But then we did have some small pockets that were pushing higher, resulting in the entire markets to be slightly up. So basic materials, financial technology, industrial, all pushing up. We got consumer defensive and utilities selling off. In the last 1 week, we got comm services as the big leader. So definitely pushing higher. Everything else is pulling back. And in the last 1 month, we've got energy and materials selling off the most, with comm services and technology the big leaders. Orange juice for the win. Coffee prices, lean hogs, oats all pushing higher, with soybean, cocoa, lumber prices, natural gas selling off, and Bitcoin here trading just under 27,000, and Ethereum just a little bit over $1,800 right now. So talking about crude oil, just really trading sideways, right? We've talked about this before, and there is a resistance at roughly $73, $74 per barrel, and right now we're just trading sideways, under $72 a barrel. So support level is going to stay put at $65. So this right here is going to be that level to watch for crude oil, and a resistance roughly at close to $73, $74 a barrel. This right here is going to be Bitcoin, and we're just trading at that support at 27,000. We're just kind of hovering sideways from those levels, and resistance is going to be at 30K for Bitcoin. For Ethereum, we're going to be talking a little bit over $2,100 as a resistance. Support level is going to stay put at $1,740, $1,700 per coin. And now going over to volatility, we've got just most of it has been trading sideways. A very, very subdued price action. And that's also true for the market, right? We've seen not a lot of volume, not a lot of action, not a lot of activity. And we broke that down in our private live stream as well today, talking about how there are investors that are traders that are very frustrated because of the lack of action in the markets. And we're just like slowly and steadily kind of drifting upwards on the back of these technology names. So volatility, very, very flat, just a little bit over 17. And going over to the yields, the 10-year yields once again back under 3.5%, but this debate over the debt ceiling is going to continue over the next few weeks as we kind of learn more about what the end result, what the solution is going to look like. I think we can all agree we know what the solution is. I think it's just the path of getting there is what's really under question. And we're seeing a lot of volatility. We're seeing a lot of concerns over the U.S. debt default, and the ceiling being either raised or suspended, not happening until the last hour that it absolutely needs to happen, which is obviously going to create some more volatility. It's going to put some pressure on the U.S. credit rating, really, and of course the Treasury market, with the yields kind of pricing in that additional risk that it can go through if the debt ceiling is not raised or suspended in due time. Now, talking about individual stocks, but before we get there, I want to talk about the markets, of course. S&P 500 more specifically, still inside this red rectangle, still consolidating sideways. And this video really goes over that idea that even though the markets are pushing higher slowly and steadily, right, we're still up from our October lows. But the fact is that we're still way below our all-time highs. S&P 500 needs to rally another 17 to 18% in order to just get back up to all-time highs. The NASDAQ, on the other hand, needs to basically climb a mountain, needs to go up a little bit over 30% still in order to get back to all-time highs. This is despite Apple, Nvidia, and Microsoft, three of the largest companies in the US, already trading at an all-time high, already trading at close to all-time highs. So how is it that, because somebody mentioned in my previous video that it can indeed, 5 to 6 companies can indeed take the markets to all-time highs. No, they can't. They literally can't. Mathematically, they can't, right? They would need to go up a lot, and we're talking 200, 300% just for them alone to take the markets to all-time highs. So if you are expecting the markets to get back up to all-time highs anytime soon, you need to expect the broad-based rally to kick in, other sectors to participate. Otherwise, the breadth is going to be weak. This is going to be a narrow leadership of stocks, and we're not going to go anywhere. On a more net basis, sure, the markets can continue to drift upwards slowly and steadily if NVIDIA shines on one day, Apple on another, Microsoft on another, but it's just going to continue to be very, very narrow leadership. We're not going to see those big burst moves to the upside back to all-time highs unless other sectors participate, unless this is a more broad-based rally. So that's where we are. Nasdaq here, more specifically, starting to slowly break outside of this resistance, but this doesn't feel like a breakout because it is not really being participated by other stocks, but instead only just a handful. But nonetheless, next resistance is going to be 13,200. So this right here is going to be that level to watch, and we got a new support at 12,280 for Nasdaq moving forward. Talking about RSP, which is your equal weighted index, and again, we're nowhere near close to the resistance from 150 from back in February. The one thing that is good about this is that it was green on the day, so it was actually up on the day. That means other sectors did participate. This ETF puts everything on a level playing field, right? All of them on equal weighting, and the fact that it is up, that means stocks were on an aggregate basis pushing higher, and that's good to know. So we want to see this continue to move up. That's going to be a more broad-based rally. It's going to be a signal for an indicator of a more broad-based momentum upwards. Talking about Apple first, and Apple here on the day slightly down, and again, resistance is going to stay put at 176, 177. So this right here is going to be that level to watch, and right now we're seeing that negative divergence play through with RSI making lower highs and the price itself being really overbought and trading at that resistance. So be careful, buying at these prices, in my opinion, considering that the risk reward is very much tilted and definitely not in the favor of the longs. Before we get further into the video, some honorable mentions that I want to go over. SoFi first. SoFi got a downgrade, but immediately got bought up. I think Anthony Noto also picked up some shares here. So definitely selling off on the downgrade of Bank of America. No, Wedbush was the one I think that downgraded. And they basically cut the price target down to 250, right? That was a 50% decrease in the price from where it was trading at roughly around $5 a share. So obviously selling off quite aggressively here on the day. It was down a little bit over 10%, but then ended up being only down 5%. So not as bad as where we started. And the other honorable mention has to be Tattooed Chef. We were talking about this during our Discord, during our live stream as well. And when we talk about the NLV, the net liquidation value, I did a very quick calculation of the assets that Tattooed Chef has between its accounts receivable, operating lease liabilities, or operating lease right of use asset. We got cash, we got inventory. The company's sitting on over 30% of its assets are inventory, about $78 million worth of Tattooed Chef bowls, which I don't know how much of those are going to sell. But if we calculate the net liquidation value after accounting for all liabilities, that sits at roughly $10 million, right? So $10 million, and right now they're sitting at $108 million. I don't know if that's correct, because last time I checked, they were sitting at roughly around 66. Oh, there we go. It just updated automatically on its own. That's so weird. You guys saw it, right? It was showing $100 million first, and now it's showing $68 million. Yeah, so that is the correct number, $68 million. My net liquidation value is closer to $10 million. So if it ever gets down to that level, hey, you never know. Never write it off. You know what I mean? But again, just wanted to mention it, and not something that I'm seriously considering, just for fun. Now going over some of the more quality companies here. Amazon on the day pushing up a little bit over 85 basis points, more or less flat, just trading past $111. Resistance is going to be staying put at that 300 SMA that's sitting roughly at 114, and that's the resistance, that's the target that we are watching for now for Amazon. If it breaks past this 300 SMA, this would be the first breakout above that level since March of 22, and on a more consistent basis, we'd be trading back above that level since December of 21. So this is the first time we'll be trading above that level since the sell-off pretty much began. So it's a very critical level at 114. Talking about Tesla, and Tesla here only down about 1%. So again, we're just trading inside this red rectangle, which is an area of both resistance and support depending on where we're trading. And right now there's a lot of consolidation for Tesla at these prices. So 164 was a low for the day, and right now we're seeing a little bit of a doji candle, lots of indecision for Tesla at the moment. Talking about NVIDIA here, and NVIDIA continues to move up inside this red rectangle, so we're still consolidating here. The expectations, the sentiment, the momentum, everything is lined up perfectly for NVIDIA going into these earnings. So it's really going to come down to the company and what they end up reporting. It's obviously trading at the same resistance as from back in March of 22. And if you do get a breakout past this level, the next level is going to be all the way up to 345, 346 for NVIDIA. That's going to be the next level if you do see a breakout. But man, oh man. $715 billion market cap. Like, come on, what is going on? What are people actually smoking here? It's absolutely crazy. Talking about advanced micro devices, I think now it's starting to see a little bit of momentum. I do think AMD, relatively speaking, well, it's got to be one of two things, right? Either NVIDIA is way too overvalued or AMD is way too undervalued. And I think it's the former. NVIDIA is just way too up there. But even if it comes down to more reasonable levels, even then I think AMD has more upside here. And $100 is going to be that resistance. I do have a covered call sitting past 105, I think. But there are going to be some resistance levels to watch. The first one, of course, is going to be at $100 all the way up to 110. Another really important resistance to watch for advanced micro devices. So I do think there's upside here, and we kind of got a perfect balance off of that 300 SMA and that higher low after the earnings came out. Earnings, which, by the way, in my opinion, were decent. Not terrible. Of course, they are expecting some good growth in the second half of this year. Talking about PayPal, and PayPal here pushing higher on the day, up close to 1%. So seeing some buyers stepping in, and the volume was low today. RSI is oversold, MACD is oversold. I will let the price stabilize a little bit, let the sellers exhaust themselves, and then obviously consider what needs to be done. I do have a cash secured put sitting at $64 strike, so I'm already in the money for that put. But I think the premium that I received for it puts my cost basis under $62. So I won't get a sign until I think it's below my break-even price, and it's obviously higher than or below the break-even price of the put buyer as well. So that's going to be closer to $62, which it has traded below $62 today, but it's getting bought up here intraday. So resistance is going to be at 66, and of course support, we're going to have to wait and see where it finds that support moving forward. Talking about Square, and Square also getting bought up here, up 2.3%. It starts to feel really, really good from a risk-reward standoff for Square here as it continues to trade down. And this is going to be that support at $53, $54. So we're going to be watching this level very closely with a resistance sitting roughly at $58, $59 per share for Square moving forward. Talking about Meta platforms, and Meta here got a nice move to the upside, up over 2%. This is going to be that new support level to watch for Meta. And again, we were talking about this during our live stream, right? How quickly does the sentiment change, right? It's absolutely wild. That 6 months ago, Meta was out of favor. Google was very much in favor. And now 6 months later, it's just complete opposite. Loop Capital kind of upgrading Meta, downgrading Google. And that's how the world of finance goes, right? Everything is changing constantly, right? The only constant is change, as I've mentioned before. And it's just wild how expectations drive prices, and they can change so quickly, right? So Meta here, resistance on the near term is going to be 245. We got a huge gap to fill here from the original earnings breakdown that we saw last year. So that's going to be sitting roughly between 248 to as much as $290. And I think the price target was increased to $320 for Meta. Talking about Netflix, and Netflix here slightly down, getting rejected at that resistance at 348, something that we did talk about for Netflix. So this right here is going to be that resistance to watch for the company, and it's now starting to roll right back down. Talking about Google, and Google here also pulling back, some sellers stepping in, down almost about 90 basis points. Resistance is going to stay put at 123. So this right here is going to be that level to watch. It did get a nice breakout after the keynote speech, but RSI MACD really overbought here. So I'm going to be very careful, kind of considering how much higher can it go. Might end up selling covered calls here tomorrow. We'll see. I mean, remainder of this week, if it starts to pull right back down, that might act as a good hedge to of course, to protect the downside. So covered calls could be the option here moving forward for Google. Microsoft, on the other hand, consolidating sideways, not really moving all that much. Resistance is at $312, so we'll continue to monitor how it trades. We do have retail sales numbers coming out later this week. We got some retail companies reporting earnings later this week, and of course, Jerome Powell's speech is scheduled on Friday as well. Support level is going to stay put at $292, resistance at $312 per share for Microsoft. And finally, we've got Shopify, and Shopify here on the day. up a little bit over 41 basis points, so pushing higher just a little bit. Support level is going to stay put at $54. We're seeing the RSI MACD incredibly overbought. It's kind of like in that middle of that range with $75 target resistance, $54 support at the moment. So hope you guys enjoyed this video and a complete update on the markets. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And yeah, very narrow leadership, just a handful of companies pushing higher, pushing the NASDAQ and the S&P up with it. We need broad-based leadership here. We need broad-based rallies in order for the markets to trade back up to all-time highs. So again, hope you guys enjoyed this video, find it helpful. If you did, make sure that you drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Link to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below. As always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.